We'll go ahead and take a look at one more example of solving rational equations. So to start off, we're going to go ahead and factor our denominators of our rational equation. And so the first two rational expressions, the denominators don't need any factorization, but the third rational expression does. So you do have a quadratic, so it's going to factor into an x and an x for the leading terms, and then what two numbers multiply together to give you -3, so they're going to have opposite signs, but add to 2. So that would be a +3 and a -1. And so that's our factorization of our denominators. So then we would work on getting the LCD of our equation. So the LCD, from the first rational expression, we know we need to include a factor of x minus 1. And from our second rational expression, we need a factor of x plus 3. And then from our third rational expression, we need an x plus 3, which we already have, and an x minus 1, which we already have. So that's our LCD. So then what we would go ahead and do is we would multiply, so our step 2 is we would multiply our rational equation by our LCD. So take x minus 1 times x plus 3 times each of the terms that we have. So our first term would be 1 over x minus 1, and then we have a plus sign, and then use our LCD again and multiply it by our second rational expression, which is x over x plus 3 equals our LCD times our third rational expression. So x minus 1 times x plus 3 times the 4 over x plus 3 times x minus 1. And then we would move on and we would do our step 3, which is basically cancel any common factors from numerator to denominator. So numerator, denominator, numerator, denominator, numerator, denominator. Those are common. And then from there, we just need to move on and do our step 4, which is simplifying. So 1 times x plus 3 is just x plus 3. X times x minus 1 is x squared minus x, and then we're left with 4 on that right hand side. So then we do have a quadratic. We have x squared, x minus x cancels out, plus 3 equals 4. Oops, equals 4. Subtract off 4 from both sides, and we get x squared minus 1 is 0. That's a difference of squares, which is factorable. That's one way to do it. So x times x gives me x squared. What two numbers multiply together to give me -1? So it's going to be a positive and a negative. But add together to give me 0, since there's no middle term. It's 0x. So +1 and -1. So set each of those factors equal to 0 and solve, and we see that we have to subtract off 1 for the first factor and we get x is -1, add 1 for the second factor and we see x is +1. So our solution set appears to be -1 and 1, but then we have to check that back into our original equation's denominators. And we can see, especially in this factored form, we can see it, that when we plug in 1, that makes this first expression and the third expression 0 in the denominator, and that's not allowed. So that 1 is not allowed to be part of our solution. And then as far as -1 goes, that is fine. So in the end, our solution is actually just -1.